Retro Gamers, and welcome to another episode of Retro Game On. Now don't run away as I say this, but today we're looking at a movie tie-in. But do not worry, it's not a Transformers game. I mentioned that specifically as to say it's not a shitty movie turned into an even shittier game. No. Today we look at The Italian Job on the PlayStation 1. Not a game based on that monstrosity of a 2003 remake, I must add, featuring Mark Look at My Biceps Wahlberg, but instead the incredible original 1969 film featuring Michael I'm sick of your shit, Batman! Caine. Sure, there is a bit of a gap from 1969 considering that this game was released in 2001 by Pixelogic and Rockstar Games. Who cares? There are two types of people in the world. Those that love the film, and well, those that probably live unfulfilled lives. If you're in the latter, there are two things you should know about me before watching the rest of this video. One, I'm a big fan of the film and Michael Caine. Two, well actually that's it. My point is that this review may be a wee bit biased, so proceed with caution. That's the thing about movie tie-ins, they either make you completely obsessive or both disappoint you and make you want to break things. I fit into the first category because I loved the hell out of this game when I was a kid. Funnily enough, I actually found out about the game before I knew the movie existed. One of the levels was on a demo disc, and all this fuss about Cockney accents and Mini Coopers grabbed my puny 8-year-old mind like glue. It was only after that I started obsessing over the movie. If you don't happen to know anything about the storyline, then you need a good stern talking to. But simply, it involves an elaborate gold heist throughout the streets of Turin using Mini Coopers, which has been deliberately set up with a traffic jam. It's English movie gold, and this game follows the storyline quite closely. Since the movie relies on cars so much, this is naturally a car game. Each level is set around a segment of the movie's narrative, where you play as all the different cars. These are based in the fairly large open city environments of London and Turin, with a bit of the Alps thrown in for good measure. It's here where the game doesn't get very innovative. All the levels involve timed get from A to B type gameplay, sometimes mixing in the odd level where you have to chase and destroy another vehicle, or avoid getting busted or wrecked yourself. Sounds sort of boring, right? Well, it was a budget game. More on that in a second though. The draw is the fact that you're playing the Italian Job. Every mission is relevant to the storyline. That, and the handling is quite different for each vehicle, meaning the gameplay stays varied and most cars are actually quite well tuned, keeping the gameplay fun. It's not as easy as it sounds either, as most time limits are quite tight, so the challenge is enough to keep you interested. Having said that though, the game cheats extra playtime out of you by making most levels only completable by taking one route. This can mean you'll sometimes have to play the level several times to get that route correct. I am however pleased to tell you that I retained the routes from when I played this years ago. It was a weird feeling knowing where to go, as if Michael Caine himself was guiding me. Another negative is that there are no checkpoints in the missions, which is sorely missed since some are timed at around 7 minutes. Nothing is more frustrating than missing the mission objective by mere seconds after nearly 10 minutes of gameplay, and then having to start the whole damn thing again. As I said though, I do like the handling of the cars quite a bit. You can tell that at least a little bit of love and care went into that. I'm not too fond of the physics though. Taking on jumps in this game can be a risk. Usually I slow down when approaching a jump, because you'll fly through the air for ages otherwise, eventually bouncing off a wall or one of those indestructible traffic lights. The enemies in this game, if you will, are the fuzz and the mob. The police can win by arresting you, so if they come across you they'll start chasing you. The longer they chase you and the closer they get, the more number plate numbers they'll see. If they see a whole number plate, the jig is up. But if you can gradually escape them, the amount of levels they've seen will decrease. I don't know how they could forget them so fast, but if Clockwork Orange has told me anything, it's that London coppers will hire any old goon. The Mafia on the other hand, will just ram you until your car's damage meter is maxed out, which is certainly easier to avoid. The main problem with the cops in Mafia is that they're quite tricky to get rid of, especially if you're in a slower vehicle like the van or the Jeep. The kicker though is that they're always in the same place. Usually, it's just easy to avoid the location where they are once you know where that is, and it takes less time to go the long way around than try and lose them. This may sound bad, but you have to keep in mind that it was a budget game. This was released for only $10 brand new, even though I paid $30 for it secondhand for whatever reason over a decade ago. Australian prices. Considering it was also a year after the release of the PS2, it was a very ballsy move to release such a license considering the movie came out decades prior. All the rest of the games at the time were either sports or kids titles. This was right at the end of the PS1's life cycle. From there, my only other gripe is the loading times. Well, one of the loading times anyway. If you restart a mission, it happens pretty much instantaneously. Starting a level from the main menu. That's the killer. Alright, let's go to touring. We're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off. The only other thing that peeves me off is the saving and loading system. You have to go through seemingly a million menus to get there, but hey, at least they look nice. Very stylistic of the mod movement, I'll assume. Hard to say though, I wasn't there. Go through enough of the pretty menus and you'll get to play the other game modes. First off, there is the Destructor mode, where the goal is to knock down traffic cones throughout a level. Every time you knock one down, the timer increases, so you have to knock down a sufficient amount to get to the end of each level. In the checkpoint mode, the goal is to get from checkpoint to checkpoint before the timer runs out, very much like what is in most racing games. In challenge mode you're challenged, and the free ride mode is fairly self-explanatory, unless you're a Clockwork Orange cop. Although you only have access to London and Turin, since the Alps map is only made of one straight stretch of road, which is used for a mission. Lastly, there is the party mode, where you complete trials with up to 7 friends. If you have that many, of course. All these modes are fantastic as far as I'm concerned. You've paid $10 for this game, and you get all this replayability after the story mode. If you looked up value for money in the dictionary, you'd probably either see this game or burger rings. Ah, so much value. I wasn't able to find any other video review of this game on the internet. As far as I know, I'm pioneering this shit. There were, however, lots of written reviews from the time of this game's release. A major issue among word aficionados was the graphics, and how terrible they thought they were. Honestly though, I thought they were alright considering the developer's predicament. By the time of those reviews, the PS2 was out and kicking and had set a new bar for graphics. Any PS1 games after that point would have naturally seemed low res and cheap. The hardware was nearly 10 years old by that point after all. Personally, I found the cities to be extremely detailed. A lot of the cities don't look the same as you drive around, and there are plenty of varied models making up the environments. Along with that, there are plenty of effects like newspaper sheets flying around, and sparks as you smash into things. Things like that really add to the overall immersion. The music isn't that terrible in this game, even including an instrumental version of Quincy Jones' Get a Bloomin' Move On. The problem isn't quality though, but quantity. There just isn't enough music in this game. The music that is there gets quite tedious after a while too, considering it's replayed so much. You're treated to sound bites by a brilliant Michael Caine impersonator throughout the game, and he also talks for a little bit at the start of each mission to tell you what's happening. Besides from him though, the rest of the voices are lacking and repetitive. I thought the old boy quote was awesome the first time I played the bus bomb mission, but even that grows tiresome after a while. I know that there may seem like more negatives than positives for this game, but you've got to keep in mind that it was only $10. I think it's fair to assume that at the time, the players would have got their $10 worth. It's even better if you're a fan of the movie. Not only do you get to play this fantastic cult film, but it's overflowing with replayability. You can even choose to replay each level if you want, if there was one that particularly tickled your fancy. So yeah, your choice at the time was either buy a large McDonald's meal and get fat, or buy this game instead and never go outside and exercise, and get fat. I know what I would choose. But hey, that's all for this episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that jazz if you want to see more. Catch you next time.